You've declared war on the galaxy's deadliest. Well done. 3 months passed since the attack on New Jeju. The galaxy expected humanity to collapse. Instead, something impossible happened. Earth transformed. Dr. Kyung-soo stood in a laboratory that had been a botanical research center. Now it designed weapons. His team worked 20-hour days every day. They had decoded the Talvek shield technology from salvaged wreckage. The shields operated on fixed frequencies, unchanging and predictable. The Talvek had used the same technology for centuries. Why change what worked? Because you never fought anyone who could adapt, Kyung-soo said to himself. He looked at his new design, a weapon that shifted frequencies faster than Talvek shields could adjust. It would cut through their defenses like they weren't there. Across Earth, similar transformations occurred. Engineer Sung-ho worked in what had been a civilian shipyard. The construction teams built trade vessels there just 4 months ago. Now they assembled something new, the Reaper-class destroyer. It was smaller than Talvek battleships but faster, more maneuverable and packed with Kyung-soo's new weapons. They build big ships because they never needed to be clever, Sung-ho explained to his team. We'll show them that bigger isn't always better. The shipyard launched 1 Reaper every 2 weeks. Other yards across human space did the same. Humanity's industrial capacity, built to terraform worlds and construct cities, now churned out weapons of war. Colonel Bo-ra trained her Ghost Battalion in the mountains of Korea. She had handpicked 300 soldiers for a new kind of warfare. The UCDF had always trained for peacekeeping. Bo-ra trained for something else entirely. The Talvek fight by the book, she told her troops. They have rules, formations, and tactics they've used for centuries. We're going to break every rule they know. We're going to fight dirty, unpredictable, and mean. We're going to make them afraid. Her soldiers learned skills no peacekeeping force needed. Sabotage, assassination, psychological warfare. They would strike from shadows and disappear before the enemy could respond. On New Jeju, Corporal Ji-woo survived in the ruins. The Talvek occupation force controlled the cities but avoided the countryside. Too much ground to cover, too many places to hide. Ji-woo and other survivors formed resistance cells. They had no heavy weapons, but they had determination. They sabotaged Talvek supply lines. They rescued prisoners. They sent intelligence to Earth through hidden transmitters. Every night they made the occupiers pay a small price. The Talvek called them terrorists. Ji-woo called it justice. Captain Taemin commanded a growing fleet. The Indomitable had survived, and now it led 12 new frigates. They were still outnumbered, but they trained relentlessly. Human crews worked twice as hard as they had during peacetime. They knew what failure meant. Admiral Hyejin coordinated everything from Earth Command. Reports flooded in from across human space. Production numbers. Training progress. Intelligence on Talvek movements. She slept 4 hours a night and lived on coffee. So did everyone else. The Galactic Council debated humanity's response. Some species expressed concern. Humans are mobilizing faster than thought possible. Their industrial output has increased by 800%. Others dismissed it. It doesn't matter. The Talvek Empire has 2,000 warships. Humanity might build 200. The math is simple. Ambassador Chul-woo Yunseo's replacement addressed the council. You misunderstand humanity. We're not trying to match the Talvek ship for ship. We're going to beat them by being smarter, faster, and more determined. Every day you wait, we get stronger. The Talvek laughed. Overlord Veskran occupied 4 human colonies now. Each fell with minimal resistance. The pattern seemed clear. Humanity would surrender within a year. Then the Ghost Battalion struck. Colonel Bo-ra led her team to a Talvek supply depot on the edge of occupied space. The depot supplied 3 Talvek fleets. It was heavily guarded, supposedly impregnable. The Talvek believed their security was perfect. Bo-ra's team infiltrated during a shift change. They wore captured Talvek uniforms. They moved through the base like ghosts. They placed explosive charges in critical locations. They accessed the base computer and stole fleet deployment data. Then they vanished. The depot exploded 6 hours later. 3 months of supplies gone, 6 ships destroyed on the landing pads. And the Talvek couldn't understand how humans had penetrated their security. Veskran watched the security footage. The humans moved with precision. They knew exactly where to go, what to hit, how to escape. This wasn't lucky. This was professional. Find them, he ordered. Hunt down every human resistance fighter. His soldiers tried. They found nothing. Bora's team was already light years away, planning the next operation. Captain Minji piloted humanity's first stealth fighter. The prototype used technology adapted from mining equipment. It could hide from most sensors while carrying enough firepower to damage a capital ship. The Talvek didn't believe stealth technology was practical. They built big sensors on big ships and assumed they would see everything. Minji proved them wrong. She slipped past Talvek patrols and scouted their fleet positions. She transmitted targeting data back to Earth. She proved that humans could go anywhere they wanted. The first major battle came at Titan, Saturn's largest moon. A Talvek fleet of 40 ships attacked the defensive platforms protecting Saturn's mining operations. Admiral Hyejin sent everything she had, 20 human warships against 40 Talvek battleships. Captain Taemin led the human fleet. Remember your training. We're faster and smarter. Make them pay for every inch. The battle lasted 8 hours. The Talvek expected a conventional engagement. Ship against ship, line against line. Instead, the human fleet scattered. They used hit-and-run tactics. They exploited the moon's gravity. They coordinated attacks that confused Talvek sensors. Kyungsu's weapons tore through Talvek shields. The Reaper-class destroyers darted between larger ships like wolves hunting buffalo. When Talvek battleships turned to engage, the human ships were already gone, attacking from a new angle. Taemin's Indomitable drew fire while 2 destroyers flanked the enemy flagship. The Talvek commander never saw them coming. His ship exploded and the Talvek formation collapsed. Humanity lost 7 ships. The Talvek lost 23. Taemin looked at the casualty reports and felt sick. Thousands dead on both sides. But they had won. News of the victory spread across human space. They could win. They could beat the Talvek. Overlord Veskrin stared at his own casualty reports. How? The humans were outnumbered 2-1. They should have been slaughtered. Instead, they had destroyed more than half his force. He sent a message to Talvek High Command. These humans fight unlike any species we've encountered. They don't follow standard tactics. They adapt constantly. They refuse to surrender even when losing. Request reinforcements. High Command reviewed the request. 40 ships lost to primitives? Unacceptable. They sent reinforcements but also a message. Do not fail again. On Earth, Colonel Bora's team planned their next operation. They had Talvek fleet positions now. They knew where the enemy would be. We're going to liberate New Jeju, Bora told Admiral Hyejin. Jiwoo and the Resistance deserve to see us coming. Hyejin studied the tactical display. It was risky, but humanity couldn't just defend. They needed to attack to reclaim what was stolen. Do it. Show the galaxy we're not victims anymore. In the ruins of New Jeju, Jiwoo received an encrypted message. She read it 3 times to believe it. The UCDF was coming. In 2 weeks, they would liberate the colony. She gathered the resistance fighters. Hide your weapons. Prepare for the signal. When our fleet arrives, we hit the occupiers from inside. We're going home. The fighters cheered quietly. Some cried. They had survived 4 months of occupation. Soon it would end. Engineer Sung-ho launched another Reaper-class destroyer. Production had increased. Every shipyard worked at maximum capacity. Humanity was building a fleet that could challenge the Talvek Empire. Dr. Kyungsu improved his weapons daily. Each generation was more effective than the last. The Talvek couldn't adapt fast enough, and across human space, ordinary people became soldiers. Farmers learned to fight. Scientists designed weapons. Teachers trained new recruits. An entire species mobilized for war. The Galactic Council watched with growing unease. Humanity was changing. The peaceful traders and artists were becoming something else. Something dangerous. Ambassador Cholwoo addressed the council again. We didn't want this war. The Talvek brought it to us. Now we'll finish it. And every species watching should remember what happens when you attack humanity. We never forget. We never forgive. And we never stop. The words echoed through the council chambers. Several species shifted uncomfortably. They had thought humans were weak. Now they weren't so sure. You've declared war on the galaxy's deadliest. Well done. The stars shimmered outside the observation deck of the UCDF frigate Indomitable as Captain Taemin reviewed the patrol reports. Another quiet day in the New Jeju system. The agricultural colony below produced enough food to feed 3 worlds, and the settlers were happy. Peace had lasted for decades. Humanity had spread to 12 worlds, trading with aliens and building a future among the stars. Taemin smiled at the thought. 15 years he had served in the United Colonial Defense Force, and the most exciting thing he had encountered was the occasional pirate raid. The galaxy was vast, but it seemed mostly peaceful. Humanity had found its place. On the bridge, Lieutenant Su Jin monitored the long-range sensors. Nothing unusual. Trade ships came and went. The colonists below tended their fields. Children played in schools built on alien soil. This was what humanity had worked for, what they had dreamed of when they first reached for the stars. Ambassador Yun Seo sat in her office on the orbital station, preparing another trade agreement with the Kelthir species. The Galactic Council had welcomed humanity with open arms. The aliens found humans interesting, friendly, and eager to learn. Nobody feared them. Why would they? Humanity's military was small, focused on keeping trade routes safe. Earth built farms, not weapons. They created art, not armies. The Talvek Empire watched from a distance. Overlord Veskrin studied the reports his scouts had gathered. Humans occupied 12 worlds with minimal defenses. Their ships were few and lightly armed. Their soldiers trained for peacekeeping, not war. The Talvek had conquered 47 star systems. Adding 12 more would be simple. Veskrin addressed his war council. These humans are weak. They spend their resources on farming and art. They talk of peace and cooperation. We will take their worlds in days, the Talvek fleet assembled. 200 warships, enough to crush any resistance. They had done this before. Species that focused on peace always fell quickly. The strong survived. The weak served. The fleet arrived at New Jeju without warning. No declaration. No negotiation. The massive Talvek battleships dropped out of hyperspace above the peaceful colony. Alarms screamed across the orbital station. Captain Taemin rushed to the bridge. Report. 200 contacts, Captain. Unknown configuration. They're not responding to hails. Taemin's blood ran cold. The Indomitable was a patrol frigate, not a battleship. Against 200 warships, it was nothing. Ambassador Yun Seo tried to establish contact. This is Ambassador Yun Seo of Earth. You have entered human space without permission. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came in perfect English. Overlord Veskrin's face appeared on every screen. I am Veskran of the Talvek Empire. Your worlds now belong to us. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 hour. Yun Seo kept her voice calm. We can negotiate. There's no need for violence. The Galactic Council. The Council will not save you. Your pathetic peacekeeping force cannot stop us. 1 hour. The transmission ended. Captain Taemin contacted the colony. Begin immediate evacuation. All civilians to the shelters. This is not a drill. On the surface, Corporal Jiwoo helped terrified families into underground bunkers. She was young, only 23, and had never expected to see combat. The UCDF trained for disasters, for accidents, not for war. Nobody made war anymore. Not in civilized space. The hour passed. The Talvek fleet opened fire. Plasma beams tore through the orbital station. Yun Seo died instantly along with 3,000 others. The station exploded in a brilliant flash. Taemin watched in horror from the Indomitable. The ambassador, the trade officials, the families stationed there, all gone in seconds. The bombardment began. Talvek warships rained fire on New Jeju. Cities burned. Fields turned to ash. Jiwoo's bunker shook with each impact. She held a crying child, trying to stay calm while the world ended above them. Captain Taemin made a decision. The Indomitable couldn't fight 200 warships, but it could record what happened. It could survive and tell Earth what the Talvek had done. Full thrust. Get us out of here. Transmit everything to Earth Command. The frigate fled while New Jeju burned below. Jiwoo and a few hundred survivors hid in bunkers while Talvek soldiers landed. The occupation began. The transmission reached Earth 18 hours later. Admiral Heejin watched the footage in silence. The unprovoked attack. The slaughter. The mockery. She had served for 30 years, all of it during peace. She commanded the Pacific Fleet, 120 ships designed to protect trade and respond to emergencies. The footage played across every human world. Billions watched Overlord Veskran laugh at human weakness. They saw New Jeju burn. They saw the orbital station explode. They saw 3,000 people die for nothing. Something changed in humanity that day. Something old and terrible woke up. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Most species expressed sympathy. Some offered words of comfort. None offered military aid. The Talvek Empire was powerful. Humanity was new and weak. This was unfortunate but inevitable. Admiral Hyojin stood before Earth's combined military command. They think we're weak because we chose peace. They think our small military means we can't fight. They're about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Orders went out to every human world. Factories that built farming equipment retooled to build weapons. Shipyards that constructed trade vessels began building warships. Scientists who studied terraforming turned their minds to destruction. Humanity had spent decades building infrastructure across 12 worlds. Now all of it pivoted to a single purpose: war. The Talvek expected surrender. They expected pleas for mercy. They expected the Galactic Council to broker a peace where humanity gave up half their worlds and accepted Talvek dominance. Instead, they received a single transmission. Admiral Hyojin's face appeared on every Talvek command ship. Her expression was cold, her voice calm. You've declared war on the galaxy's deadliest species. Well done. You wanted to see what humanity can do? You're about to find out. We didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain by surrendering. We survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We turned a deadly planet into a garden. We reached the stars through determination and blood. You think you know us because we built farms instead of fleets? You understand nothing. We chose peace. You've chosen war. Now you'll learn why that was a mistake. There will be no negotiation. No surrender, no mercy. We're coming for you. And when we're done, the galaxy will know what it means to provoke humanity. This is your only warning, run. The transmission ended. Overlord Veskrin laughed. Humanity had no fleet capable of challenging the Talvek. Their threats were empty. He ordered the occupation of 2 more human colonies. But in the bunkers of New Jeju, Corporal Jiwoo recorded everything on a hidden transmitter. The Talvek cruelty, the executions, the prisoners. She sent it all to Earth. And on Earth, in secret facilities, Dr. Kyung-soo looked at Talvek shield frequencies his scientists had captured from the wreckage. I can beat this, he said. Give me 3 months. Engineer Sung-ho studied Talvek ship designs. They're powerful but predictable. I can build something they've never seen. Colonel Bora assembled volunteers for a new unit. They would fight differently than anyone expected. They would use tactics the Talvek couldn't anticipate. The war had begun. The Talvek thought it would be over in weeks. Humanity knew it would last years. But humans had something the Talvek didn't understand. They remembered their history. They knew what their species could become when survival demanded it. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen. Humanity unleashed. You've declared war on the galaxy's deadliest. Well done. 6 months into the war, humanity launched Operation Razorback. 3 human fleets struck simultaneously at 3 different Talvek-occupied colonies. The goal was simple: take back what was stolen. Admiral Hyojin commanded from Earth, coordinating all 3 attacks. She had 50 ships now and more launching every week. The industrial mobilization had exceeded every projection. Humanity built weapons faster than anyone thought possible. The first target was New Jeju. Captain Taemin led 20 warships toward the colony. The Talvek had fortified it heavily after the resistance attacks. 30 enemy warships guarded the system, and ground forces occupied every major city. Lieutenant Soo Jin, now serving as Taemin's intelligence officer, had cracked the Talvek military communication codes. I can hear everything they say, Captain. I know where every ship is, what orders they're receiving, what they're planning. This intelligence gave humanity an enormous advantage. The Talvek made plans assuming their communications were secure. They were wrong. The enemy fleet is divided, Soo Jin reported. 10 ships orbit the planet. 20 are in the outer system. If we hit the outer group first, we can defeat them before the others arrive. Taemin smiled. The Talvek think in terms of overwhelming force. They don't understand speed and precision. Let's teach them. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They immediately engaged the outer Talvek group. The enemy was caught off guard. Ships scattered across a wide area. The humans concentrated their fire, destroying targets one by one. Commander Jae-sung led the Marine Raiders in 20 assault ships. While the space battle raged, his force slipped past the fighting and headed for the planet's surface. His mission was to link up with the resistance and attack Talvek ground forces from inside their own perimeter. On New Jeju, Jiwoo heard the sounds of battle in orbit. She activated her hidden transmitter. This is Resistance Leader Jiwoo. We're ready. Tell us where to hit. Jae-sung's voice came through clearly. Southwest landing zone. Take out their anti-aircraft batteries. We're coming in hot. Jiwoo rallied her fighters. 200 survivors, poorly armed but burning with rage. They knew every street, every building. The Talvek controlled the cities, but they didn't understand the terrain. The resistance attacked 3 anti-aircraft batteries simultaneously. They used stolen Talvek weapons and homemade explosives. The batteries fell within minutes. Jae-sung's assault ship screamed through the atmosphere and landed in the secure zone. 3,000 Marines poured out. They wore powered armor and carried weapons designed specifically to counter Talvek equipment. Within an hour, they controlled the entire southwest quadrant of the capital city. In orbit, the space battle turned decisively. The outer Talvek group lost 15 ships before the inner group could respond. When those 10 ships finally arrived, they found the human fleet ready and waiting. Captain Taemin's tactics were merciless. He concentrated fire, used the planet's gravity to his advantage, and exploited every weakness Sujin identified. The Talvek commander requested reinforcements. None came. The nearest Talvek fleet was 3 days away, fighting another human attack at a different colony. By the end of the day, New Jeju was free. The Talvek ground forces surrendered after their air support was destroyed. The orbital fleet was shattered. Jiwoo stood in the ruins of her home and watched human ships patrol the sky. She cried for the first time in 6 months. Commander Jae-sung found her in the rubble. You held out. You kept fighting. You're a hero. Jiwoo shook her head. I'm just a survivor, but I'll take the promotion if you're offering. She became a lieutenant that day, field promoted for her leadership of the resistance. She would go on to fight in a dozen more battles. The second target was the Arcturus colony. Captain Minji led a squadron of stealth fighters ahead of the main fleet. Her mission was to disable the Talvek sensor network before the attack began. She approached the enemy positions invisible to their sensors. The Talvek still didn't believe stealth technology worked. They would learn. Minji's squadron released electromagnetic pulse missiles. The weapons fried every Talvek sensor in the system. For 15 minutes, the enemy was blind. That was all the time humanity needed. The attack fleet arrived and destroyed the confused Talvek ships before they could reorganize. The Arcturus colony was liberated with minimal casualties. The third target was the hardest. The Centauri colony was humanity's oldest beyond Earth. The Talvek had occupied it early and fortified it heavily. 50 enemy warships guarded the system. General Haiwan commanded this operation personally. She was new to her rank, promoted rapidly as the war expanded, but she had proven herself repeatedly with bold strategies. We can't win a straight fight against 50 ships, she told her officers, so we won't fight fair. Her fleet consisted of 30 ships, but she had a secret weapon. Engineer Sung-ho had developed a new type of missile. It looked like regular ordnance on sensors, but it contained a prototype antimatter warhead. One missile could destroy a battleship. Humanity had only produced 20 of these missiles. Sung-ho used them all in this battle. The human fleet jumped in and immediately began retreating, drawing the Talvek into pursuit. The enemy commander thought he had the humans running scared. He concentrated his fleet for a decisive strike. That's when the antimatter missiles launched. They came from stealth ships hidden in the asteroid belt. The Talvek never saw them coming. 12 Talvek battleships vanished in antimatter explosions. The others panicked. Their formation collapsed. General Haiwan's fleet turned and attacked. The battle became a slaughter. The Centauri colony was freed by the end of the week. 3 colonies liberated in 7 days. The galaxy watched in shock. Private Dong-hyun became a legend during the Centauri operation. His squad was ordered to hold a strategic bridge for 6 hours while civilians evacuated. The Talvek attacked with overwhelming force, trying to cross the bridge and cut off the evacuation route. Dong-hyun's squad numbered 12. They faced 300 enemy soldiers. The battle should have lasted minutes. It lasted 36 hours. They used every trick they knew. They collapsed buildings to create choke points. They set traps. They repositioned constantly, making the enemy think there were more defenders. When they ran out of ammunition, they used captured Talvek weapons. When those ran out, they fought with knives and bare hands. 11 of the 12 died. Dong-hyun survived barely. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found him unconscious among 300 dead enemies. The bridge held. The civilians escaped. They gave him every medal the UCDF offered. He refused them all. Give them to my squad. They're the heroes. The story spread across human space. Dong-Hyun became a symbol of human determination. If one man could hold against 300, what could an army do? Overlord Veskran watched his empire crumble. In 6 months, humanity had gone from victims to threats. They had destroyed dozens of his ships. They had liberated 4 colonies. They fought with a creativity and ferocity he had never encountered. He sent another message to High Command. The humans are not what we thought. They adapt faster than any species I've studied. Their technology improves daily. Their tactics are unpredictable. They take casualties that would break any other species and keep fighting. I strongly recommend we seek terms. High Command rejected his request. The Empire does not negotiate with inferiors. You will crush the humans or be replaced. Veskran knew what that meant. Win or die. He gathered his remaining forces and planned a counterattack, but Colonel Bora was already planning too. The Ghost Battalion had grown to 3,000 soldiers. They operated behind enemy lines, destroying supply depots, assassinating commanders, and spreading fear. She sent a message to every Talvek-occupied world. It broadcast on every frequency impossible to block. The message was simple: we are coming. You cannot hide. You cannot win. Surrender or die. The psychological impact was devastating. Talvek soldiers started surrendering rather than face human forces. Some deserted entirely. The empire that had conquered 47 systems was learning what fear felt like. Dr. Kyung-soo developed new weapons weekly. Each generation was more devastating than the last. The Talvek couldn't keep up. Their technology had stagnated over centuries of easy victories. Humanity innovated daily. Engineer Sung-ho launched the first Titan-class battleship. It was larger than anything humanity had built before, armed with every advanced weapon they had developed. One Titan could match 3 Talvek battleships. Admiral Hee-jin stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship. She looked at the tactical display showing human forces across the galaxy. 50 systems defended, 3 fleets on the offensive. Production exceeding all projections. 6 months ago they thought we'd surrender in weeks, she said. Now they're the ones afraid. But we're not done. We won't stop until every human world is free and the Talvek understand what it means to start a war with humanity. The crew cheered. They knew the war was far from over, but they also knew humanity was winning. You've declared war on the galaxy's deadliest. Well done. 1 year into the war. The Talvek Empire faced a crisis it had never experienced before. Defeat. Human forces had liberated 8 colonies and pushed deep into Talvek space. The empire that once seemed invincible was losing territory for the first time in centuries. Overlord Veskran was executed for his failures. Talvek High Command needed a scapegoat, and he was convenient. His replacement, Warlord Threnix, promised victory through any means necessary. He was younger, more aggressive, and desperate to prove himself. His first act was to authorize bioweapons. The Galactic Council had banned such weapons centuries ago. Most species considered them barbaric. Threnix didn't care. He needed to break human morale, and conventional weapons weren't working. The bioweapon hit the colony of New Perth, a peaceful world of farmers and artists, liberated just 3 months earlier. The weapon was designed to target human physiology specifically. It killed quickly and horribly. Captain Minji's squadron arrived too late. She watched from orbit as the bioweapon spread. 50,000 colonists died in hours. The lucky ones died quickly. Others suffered for days. Minji transmitted the evidence to Earth. The images were horrific. Children dying in their parents' arms. Medical facilities overwhelmed. Entire cities turned into mass graves. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Chulwu stood before them, his face pale with rage. The Talvek have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. They have used bioweapons against civilians. You all signed the treaties banning such weapons. You all agreed they were too terrible to use. The Talvek don't care about your rules. They only understand force, and humanity is about to show them what real force looks like. Several council members tried to speak about moderation and proportional response. Chulwu cut them off. We're done with moderation. The Talvek wanted total war. They're going to get it. Don't ask us to show mercy. They showed none. Don't ask us to follow rules. They broke them all. You want to stop this? Then help us end the Talvek Empire. Otherwise, stay out of our way. He walked out of the council chamber. Behind him, the alien diplomats sat in stunned silence. They had never heard a human speak with such cold fury. On Earth, General Haewon received new orders. Total war protocol. No more defensive posture. No more measured responses. From now on, humanity would take the fight to the Talvek homeworld itself. They wanted to see what we're capable of, Heywan told her commanders. Let's show them. Dr. Youngmi, a xenobiologist, briefed the military leadership on Talvek psychology. She had studied every piece of intelligence they had gathered. The Talvek have never fought a species that refuses to submit, she explained. In their history, every war ends with the loser surrendering once the cost becomes too high. They don't understand a species that keeps fighting regardless of cost. That's their weakness. They can't comprehend our determination. Admiral Hyejin integrated this into her strategy. We'll make every battle cost them more than they can afford. We'll make them afraid to fight. We'll make them question everything they know. Sergeant Hyunwoo led an elite assault team in the most daring operation yet. The Talvek had a fortress on the border of their core territories. They called it the Iron Gate. It had never fallen. Massive walls, energy shields, and a garrison of 10,000 soldiers protected it. Hyunwoo studied the defenses for weeks. Every conventional approach would fail. The Talvek had prepared for ground assaults, orbital bombardment, and siege warfare. They hadn't prepared for what he planned. His team used vertical assault tactics. They approached from below, using mining equipment to tunnel under the fortress. They came up inside the command center in the middle of the night. The fortress garrison never knew what hit them. The Iron Gate fell in 4 hours. The Talvek High Command received the news in disbelief. Their impregnable fortress taken by 200 humans with mining tools and determination. Captain Taemin now commanded a fleet of 60 ships. He led them toward the Talvek core systems, liberating colonies and destroying military installations. The Talvek sent fleets to stop him. He defeated them all. His tactics had evolved. He no longer fought defensively. He attacked aggressively, targeting Talvek weaknesses before they could respond. He used psychological warfare, broadcasting messages that demoralized enemy crews. You're fighting for an empire that sends you to die, his broadcast said. We're fighting for our families, our homes, our survival. Who do you think wants it more? Talvek ships started surrendering without fighting. Their crews had heard the stories. The humans showed no mercy to those who fought but treated prisoners well. Survival meant surrender. Lieutenant Jiwoo had risen quickly through the ranks. She now commanded a battalion of veterans who had survived the occupation. They specialized in retaking occupied worlds. They knew what the civilians had endured. They fought with a fury that terrified the enemy. During the liberation of Harmony Station, Jiwoo's battalion faced a desperate Talvek defense. The enemy commander threatened to execute civilian hostages if the humans attacked. Jiwoo's response was broadcast across the galaxy. Execute them and we'll execute every one of you. Not quickly, not mercifully. We'll make it last. Your choice. The Talvek commander looked at his soldiers and saw fear in their eyes. They knew Jiwoo meant it. The hostages were released. The garrison surrendered. The war reached Earth. Warlord Thrinix, desperate and facing pressure from high command, launched a massive counterattack. He gathered every reserve ship the Empire had. 300 warships, the largest fleet the Talvek had ever assembled. His target was Earth itself. If he could destroy humanity's homeworld, the war would end. The human colonies would surrender without their center of government and production. The fleet jumped toward Earth. Admiral Hyejin had been expecting this. She pulled every available ship back to defend the homeworld. 120 human warships against 300 Talvek vessels. The Battle of Luna began in the space between Earth and its moon. It was the largest battle in human history. Every weapon humanity had developed was deployed. Reaper-class destroyers darted between enemy battleships. Titan-class battleships traded fire with Talvek dreadnoughts. Stealth fighters launched antimatter missiles from hidden positions. Captain Taemin commanded the center line. His flagship, the new Indomitable II, led 20 ships against the Talvek vanguard. The fighting was brutal. Ships exploded on both sides. Casualties mounted into the thousands. Engineer Sung Ho had prepared a surprise. Hidden around Luna were automated defense platforms. They activated when the battle reached its peak, adding their firepower to the human fleet. The Talvek had numerical superiority. Humanity had better technology, better tactics, and absolute determination. They fought in sight of their homeworld. Every human in the fleet knew that losing meant extinction. Warlord Thrinix led from his massive flagship, the Dominion. It was 3 times the size of any human ship, armed with weapons that could shatter moons. He targeted Earth directly, planning to bombard the planet into submission. Captain Taemin saw the danger. The Dominion had broken through the human line. Nothing could stop it from reaching Earth except a sacrifice. He didn't hesitate. All power to engines. Ram speed. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to escape pods. His crew understood. Some refused to leave. They stayed at their posts. The Indomitable II accelerated to full speed. The Talvek saw it coming but couldn't believe what was happening. No commander would sacrifice their flagship. It was illogical. They didn't understand humanity. Logic was secondary to survival. Survival required sacrifice. The Indomitable II struck the Dominion at a significant fraction of light speed. Both ships vanished in an explosion visible from Earth's surface. Warlord Threnix died instantly. His command structure collapsed. Admiral Hai Jin seized the moment. All ships full attack. Break their fleet now. The human fleet surged forward. The Talvek, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. The retreat became a rout. By the end of the day, only 30 Talvek ships escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. Earth was saved. The cost was terrible. Captain Taemin and 3,000 crew members died. Another 5,000 humans died in the broader battle, but they had broken the Talvek's last major offensive. General Hai Wan stood in the war room looking at the casualty reports. So many dead, so many sacrifices, but Earth survived. She activated the fleet-wide communication. Prepare for final offensive operations. We're taking this war to the Talvek homeworld. They started this. We're going to finish it. Lieutenant Jiwoo received her orders. Her battalion would be part of the invasion force. She thought about the occupation she had survived, the friends she had lost, the horrors she had witnessed. Soon it would end. The galaxy watched as humanity prepared its final push. The species that had been peaceful traders 18 months ago was about to invade and conquer an empire that had stood for centuries. Some aliens were horrified, others were impressed. All were afraid. You've declared war on the galaxy's deadliest. Well done. 18 months after the attack on New Jeju, the human fleet arrived at the Talvek homeworld. 200 warships surrounded the planet, cutting off all escape routes. The species that had been victims was now the conqueror. Admiral Hyojin commanded from her flagship, the Unity. She looked at the blue-green world below. Billions of Talvek lived there. Civilians who had nothing to do with the war. She felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion. Send the message, she ordered. The transmission went to every Talvek receiver on the planet and in orbit. This is Admiral Hee Jin of the United Colonial Defense Force. Your military has been defeated. Your fleets are destroyed. Your colonies are liberated or occupied. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will reduce your defenses to rubble and invade. Choose wisely. The Talvek High Command met in emergency session. They had 36 warships left, hidden in orbital stations around their homeworld. Against 200 human ships, they meant nothing. The empire that had conquered 47 systems was finished. Some commanders wanted to fight to the last. Others recognized reality. The debate raged for 50 minutes. Finally, the council leader made a decision. Contact the Galactic Council. Request their mediation. Perhaps they can save us from complete destruction. The Galactic Council convened immediately. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. Everyone wanted to see how this ended. Ambassador Chulwu sat in the human delegation box, his expression neutral. The Talvek ambassador approached him, desperation clear in his movements. Please, there must be terms we can negotiate. We will withdraw from all occupied territories. We will pay reparations. We will disarm. Just call off your fleet, Chulwu stood. He addressed the entire council, not just the Talvek. 18 months ago, the Talvek attacked us without warning. They killed thousands of civilians. They occupied our worlds. They enslaved our people. When we asked this council for help, you did nothing. You said it was unfortunate but inevitable. You told us to accept our fate. He paused, letting the words sink in. We didn't accept it. We fought back. We built weapons. We learned warfare. We adapted. And we won. Now the Talvek come to you begging for mercy. They want you to save them from the consequences of their actions. Why should we listen? You stood silent when we burned. We'll stand silent while they beg. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported the Talvek, calling for restraint. Others remained quiet, watching to see what humanity would do. The hour expired. Admiral He-jin received no surrender. She gave the order: begin orbital bombardment. Military targets only. Minimize civilian casualties. The human fleet opened fire. Precision strikes destroyed Talvek defense platforms, military bases, and shipyards. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Talvek military infrastructure was gone. The planet was defenseless. The Talvek High Command finally sent their surrender. Unconditional and complete. Admiral He-jin transmitted the terms. Complete dismantling of all military forces. War reparations equal to 50 years of your gross domestic product. Human occupation forces will remain for 50 years to ensure compliance. Your empire is dissolved. Your conquered territories are free. These terms are not negotiable. The Talvek had no choice. They accepted. Colonel Bora led the occupation force. 10,000 soldiers landed on the Talvek homeworld to ensure the terms were enforced. She established headquarters in the former imperial palace. The symbolism was deliberate. The occupation was strict but not cruel. Humans didn't seek revenge on civilians. They wanted to ensure the Talvek could never threaten anyone again. Military equipment was destroyed. Weapons factories were dismantled. The species that had conquered through force was reduced to a defensive posture. Lieutenant Jiwoo stood in the imperial palace, remembering the occupation of New Jeju. She had survived as a hunted resistance fighter. Now she stood in the enemy's capital as a conqueror. The journey had taken 18 months and cost millions of lives. A young Talvek civilian approached her, nervous. "Will you kill us all?" Jiwoo looked at the young alien, fear in their eyes, the same fear she had felt during the occupation. "No," she said. "We're not monsters. We'll occupy your world. We'll disarm your military and we'll make sure you never threaten anyone again. But we won't slaughter civilians. That's what separates us from you." The Galactic Council held a formal session to recognize the war's end. Ambassador Chulwu represented humanity. The council leader, a being from an ancient species, addressed the assembly. The Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity as a first-tier species with full military rights and protections. The Human United Colonial Defense Force has proven itself capable of defending its territories and projecting power across multiple systems. Chulwu accepted the recognition but added his own statement. "We didn't want to be a military power. We wanted to farm, create art, and explore. The Talvek forced us to become warriors. Every species here should remember that. Peace is our preference. War is our capability. Don't confuse the two." Several species in the council shifted uncomfortably. They had watched humanity transform from peaceful traders to a military force that defeated an empire. The implications were clear. Humanity was not to be threatened. Dr. Kyung-soo returned to his laboratory. The weapons research would continue, but now he could also return to peaceful science. The technology developed during the war could be adapted for terraforming, medicine, and exploration. Humanity had learned to fight, but they hadn't forgotten how to build. Engineer Sung-ho designed new ships. Some were warships, maintaining the UCDF's strength. Others were colony ships. Humanity would expand into the galaxy, and now they had the power to defend their expansion. General Haiwan accepted promotion to Supreme Commander of all human military forces. She had led humanity through the darkest days of the war. Now she would lead them into an uncertain peace. "We must remain strong," she told the graduating class at the new military academy. "Not because we want war, but because we know what happens when we're weak. We chose peace once. Others chose war. We'll never be unprepared again." Captain Minji, now an admiral, commanded the new stealth fleet. 50 advanced ships that could go anywhere undetected. They would ensure humanity always knew what threats existed in the galaxy. Sergeant Hyunwoo retired from active service. He had fought in every major battle of the war. His body bore scars from a dozen worlds. He became an instructor, teaching new soldiers the lessons learned in blood. The liberated colonies rebuilt. New Jeju rose from the ashes. Arcturus flourished again. Centauri expanded. Humanity's 12 worlds became 20, then 30. The species that had almost been conquered now expanded confidently into the galaxy. Other aggressive species watched humanity's expansion and quietly abandoned their plans. The Krell Dominion, which had been planning to raid human shipping, decided to seek trade agreements instead. The Vex Collective, known for territorial expansion, went around human space rather than through it. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Humanity was dangerous, not because they were naturally violent, but because they could become violent when necessary. They had the industrial capacity to build fleets. They had the creativity to develop new weapons. They had the determination to never surrender. And most importantly, they remembered. Admiral Hyajin stood on Earth looking up at the stars. She thought about Captain Taemin and the thousands of others who had died in the war. They had sacrificed everything so humanity could survive. We won, she said quietly, but the cost was terrible. We became what we had to become. Now we have to choose what we'll be going forward. Ambassador Chulwu addressed the Galactic Council one final time before returning to Earth. Humanity will continue to expand. We'll establish new colonies. We'll develop new technologies. We'll trade with peaceful species and defend ourselves against aggressive ones. But we'll also remember this war. We'll remember that we asked for peace and received violence. We'll remember that when we needed help, you offered none. And we'll remember that we survived alone. From now on, humanity stands ready to help others who face what we faced. But we'll never forget that in our darkest hour, we stood alone. The council listened in silence. The message was clear. Humanity would be a force in the galaxy now. They could be allies or enemies. The choice would be up to other species. On the Talvik homeworld, the occupation continued. Schools taught a new history, one that included the war and its lessons. Young Talvik learned that strength alone wasn't enough, that underestimating an opponent could destroy an empire, that peace was valuable. Some Talvik resented the occupation. Others accepted it. All understood that their old empire was gone forever. They would rebuild, but as a peaceful species, not conquerors. The war ended officially on a cold day in December. Exactly 18 months after it began, General Haewon signed the final peace treaty in the Imperial Palace on the Talvik homeworld. Colonel Bora and Lieutenant Jiwoo stood witness. "It's over," Haewon said. "We won, but I hope we never have to do this again." Jiwoo thought about the young Talvik who had asked if humans would kill them all. "We became warriors because we had to. Now we get to choose what we'll be."